So we as a local agency or a local branch, and in order to assist the Human Rights Commission, what we've done is we have our own complaint form when someone feels they have been denied their human or civil rights, who have been discriminated in public accommodation, employment, or housing. We help them to kind of write out their complaint. We try to help them to annotate times, dates, persons, when, where, who, what, when, where, and why, all the facts. And in doing so, it kind of has a clear picture, and especially when folks write something down, they have a clear picture of whether or not something's actually wrong. And they can put it in their own words and articulate it in a way that it has a time sequence of events. And then they're able to see whether they are. And usually, again, I will speak for myself. If I usually help someone write something out, when they get through articulating it, what I try to get them to do is can they resolve the issue on their own? Can they go back to that person and say, here's where I felt I was wrong, and in most cases, folks get stubborn, we're set in our ways, and people feel like they're being threatened by a complaint, and so, well, they'll tell folks, well, you go file your complaint. Well, that is a public right. That is a civil right, that is a human right. If you think you have been denied, your rights as a human being, you have the right to an avenue of redress to file a complaint, be it in your workplace, in your housing, and as a citizen of this great nation. And in doing so, we think that, again, not beating up on the Human Rights Commission, just saying there are some things that need to be changed, the things that need to be looked at. In the Act, it talked about accessing religious groups, community groups, and in accessing them, using them, again, to their benefit, to work out certain issues. And I think, that's a partnership that's sort of been severed by, again, relationship issues more so than the agency issues. I think that we need to reestablish that relationship issue with the Human Rights Commission. I think that if they would follow their own Human Rights Act and accordingly, there would not be this, again, from my perspective, a community, opinion that the Human Rights Commission has failed the folks that it's supposed to serve. This failure is again, and the fact that if 90% of all cases are going to be no probable cause, and that's out of 440 some cases, what is the purpose of going to an agency that's supposed to help you? And one of the things I think that has an impact on that is the way the Act is set up, because the commissioners and the executive appointees, executive director, are appointed by the governor. They're appointed by the governor. Now, if you're an executive director or a commissioner who's appointed by the governor, are you going to make his government look bad? Are you going to go to an agency? Are you going to go and report discrimination against, be it highways or HUD or whoever else works under the governor, and think that case is going to be seen in your best interest as a citizen versus that government organization? It's hard to believe that you can, as they say, take on the red tape of City Hall and beat it as an individual. And if the agency who is responsible for you seeking made whole relief, then again, the impression that I'm getting from those who are coming to the NOCP and my local branch is they're not getting the necessary relief from the Human Rights Commission. And I'll be answering any questions you have for me.
Are there any questions of Mr. Harrell? Yes, Dolly, you got it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One question, Mr. Hill, and I have another meeting at 11, so question of the chair. We've sort of struggled mightily in this committee, as you well know, to try to even the playing field. The information that you're providing today says to me, in my uneducated way, that the state of West Virginia may be setting themselves up for a lawsuit by the NAACP because they're not complying with some of the provisions in laws. Would you say that's an accurate statement?
One of the things I've tried to say at the local level and even at the state level, first our job is to educate, then to legislate, and then if all else fails, then to litigate. We have not gotten to the point we are going to process or put out a case, but there are, well, I'll take that back. We are working on one. We just have not presented it because it deals with 573, which is the economic development, and we feel the governor has not acted appropriately in setting up contracting services through the purchasing department. They have not acted appropriately in encouraging or having the economic development authority to aggressively seek out ways to help minority and African American businesses, as well as businesses by women. We think the several other legislative issues that did not get passed this past session have a direct impact on the lack of success. That being the Herb Henderson bill being one issue, the closing achievement gap bill being the other. So there's some legislative things we think that could have happened that could have eased the suffering and struggle. And from your own committee report, the Select Committee meeting minority report from 2004, and he's saying there were some critical issues even in that report have not been worked on. There were only 5 bills passed at that time, only 2 cents, and yet there were 35 recommendations. So we think that even from your own report, if you historically look at the Select Committee B report, the recommendations this committee made have not been addressed, have not been followed up on, and the issue continues to slide to the background and again get overlooked.
That brings me to the question of the chair. In reviewing the minutes, and I know I apologize for not being here on time. One of the requests, and maybe I didn't do this correctly last time, was to include a study of contracting. Are we going to do that?
I understand we're waiting for confirmation of approval from the Speaker's office.
That's all I have, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Hills, I understand just quickly, one of the problems you're having is you're telling us that the Human Rights Commission as a body is not meeting regularly as required by law.
The commissioners who are required by their proclamation are supposed to meet monthly. And there were, again, the past year, and I speak for what may happen this year, did not meet.
At all.
There are no minutes. If you go out there, you will find no minutes of the meeting or any proceedings whatsoever.
And the other thing I think, and it may get back to Senator Jenkins' concern, is that we're getting aggregate data now as to complaints, number of complaints filed, but we're not getting the detail as to by class or classification. It used to occur in 05 and 04. And
which creates another issue, because if you don't know the demography of the statistical report that you're given, how do you know there's a problem? And if you lump everything either just public accommodation or housing or equal employment, you don't know if there's a problem. You don't know if it's because of race, reporting to, speaking to, and you don't know if they were, if 91% of those probable causes is because they resulted at a lower level, I would, tell me how you resolve the issues. But it just says no probable cause. And I'm saying that doesn't tell me anything. Is it because people withdrew the complaint? They didn't continue with their complaint? Was it, what they call a failure to adjudicate, in other words, continue to process it? It just says no probable cause. So I'm like, I as a person could say, maybe you're just getting frustrated with the system and not even following up on a complaint.
And then I guess that's, we need, again, as policymakers, we need accurate information to make sound policy decisions. So without that information...
And not to overreact on certain situations, because there are certain things that may already be in place that could rectify the situation. And folks may not know. The governor himself may not know that after July 1st, he should have been appointing somebody as his commissioner, and they should be meeting here, and they should be deciding who the officers are going to be for the year and how they're going to operate.
Well, I appreciate you drawing attention to these issues. Are there any other questions?
Mr. Hill, you sort of made the allegation that there are some people in the community who feel the Human Rights Commission isn't doing their job.
Yes.
For various reasons. And you also made the allegation that, and part of the analogy, that the chickens are guarding the hen house. Are you suggesting then that the Human Rights Commission become a separate non-governmental body, or how do you resolve that situation?
Well, I mean, again, I didn't want to go into the whole act, But there are some things in it that the powers given to the commission would allow it to make recommendations, legislative recommendations, to give them the authority to act independently, in a sense that they wouldn't look like they're being controlled by the governor himself. Now, one is just because someone appoints me, doesn't mean I have to necessarily abide by their, I would want to go in their direction. But when you talk about equal opportunity, when you talk about people who are denying folks human and civil rights, even the governor can't do that. He doesn't have the legal authority to deny someone their human or civil right.
But I don't want to make this out of cross-examination, but are you suggesting then that the Human Rights Commission becomes an instrument separate from state government?
No, it can't be separate. Because one of the things you have is you have a separate governmental office. You have the state employment office, who in their executive order, were supposed to govern those public employees who work for state governments. Correct? To me, the Human Rights Commission's main mission was to govern citizens of the community. You see what I'm saying? So if you're protecting citizens' rights, not state employee rights or whatever, then what you should be doing is looking at what is best for the citizens of this great state, not for the governor or for this legislative body. You see what I'm saying?
I understand.
And so those things need to be looked at, that they would have some autonomy, not separate from government, but because it has to be connected. Because there has to be a direct link from this executive directive that they can act on, so that if it fails to meet, then there would be a federal standard they could be held to. And I guess that's the thing I'm looking at. There is a federal standard to be held to. And do we want our citizens filing complaints at the federal level because they're not being acted on or responded to at the state level? That's a possibility, but I don't think we want to take it out of state control at this point in time.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Nothing further to come before the committee. Senator Yost, move we adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?